What's going on, everybody? So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how to buy your first rental property. So the first half of this video is going to be talking about how to save some money, get your credit right, everything like that. And the second half of this video is going to be talking about how to find the best rental deal out there, how to find the best cash flowing asset for you. So that being said, if you're looking to buy your first investment deal, please smash that like button and let's get started. Okay, so tip number one, when you're buying your first investment deal, you obviously need to save money. And I would say this, like a year, 6 months, even 2 years, 3 years can go by so quickly. So the very first thing I would say to do is to get a cheaper apartment. I know that sounds obvious, but a lot of people, once they get their first job, first big paycheck, whatever it may be, they try to spend, the maximum amount possible. When in reality, you don't have to look as rich as, you think you might be. You can really scale it back and maybe get an apartment for $500 a month, $1,000 a month. Just get something that's in a somewhat convenient location. You don't want to go too far off the beaten path or anything like that. Still be convenient, but it doesn't have to be a luxury apartment. And just by doing that over the course of a year, you should easily be able to save, $1,000 maybe, per month, maybe $2,000 per month, depending on how much you were paying before. So try to scale back. That's going to add up over the course of a year. That's going to be $10,000 or $20,000, which is enough for a down payment on a small investment property. When you're buying your first investment property, you don't have to buy an 100-unit building. That can be your goal, and I know people that have done that. But you can start small. So don't think you need to buy $1 million house or anything like that. You can start with a small property, work your way up. That's what most people do. Tip number 2 for saving up some cash reserves for an investment property is to either get a part-time job. You can do some social media marketing for people, or maybe just ask your current employer, hey, are there any additional tasks I can do? Maybe you can take over someone's role. Maybe someone just left the company and you can say, look, I'll do their role. Just maybe you could throw me a few extra bucks. But there's always, if you're in a business and the employer likes you, there's always additional tasks that you can take off their hands that they would gladly pay you for. Even if it's just nominal tasks like cleaning or who knows what, doing errands or something like that. Just ask your current employer, if it's a small company, say, look, what tasks can I take off your hand to make your life, completely stress-free? I'll do additional work for you, whether it's, if you're in a real estate company, real estate related, or maybe it's just personal assistant related, or whatever it is, or maybe it's social media is huge right now. So maybe you can say, look, I'll do your social media for you, pay me a few extra bucks. Your social media consultant that you might be paying or thinking about paying is going to charge you $2,000 a month or whatever it may be. I'll do it for half the price, and I'll just follow what the top influencers do, and I'll do it for your brand. So there's always different ways to make additional money. You can look at part-time jobs on Craigslist. There's so many out there, or you can ask your current employer. But try to not only get a cheaper apartment, but also get additional income from a part-time job or a job salary increase. And that's before you know it, after 6 months of doing that, you're gonna have some pretty good cash reserves. Tip number 3 is to get a cheaper car. So like I kind of mentioned earlier with the apartment thing, a lot of people get their first job, their first big paycheck, they have a good year, they'll buy the most expensive thing possible just to look like they're rich. When in reality, there's people much, much wealthier than them that are living or driving much less vehicles. If you go to Los Angeles, right, you'll see the Bentleys and everything like that, but you'll see so many millionaires. I stayed with a millionaire. All they had was Priuses. They just drove Priuses around everywhere. If you go to LA, you'll notice every car is either a Prius or a Range Rover, or maybe there's some Bentleys in there too. But scale back your car. That could easily be $100, $200, $300 payment that you're saving every single month. Or maybe you don't even need a car. Some jobs you don't actually need a car. You can just use Uber, use public transportation. But between those 3 things, scaling back on housing, scaling back on your car, and also getting a part-time job or asking for a salary increase, so long as you have the skills to qualify for that, you're going to save a lot of money over the course of 6 months or a year. Tip number 4 to improve your finances so that you can buy an investment property is to improve your credit. So we talked about getting all the cash reserves. Now you need to improve your credit. That's a big part of the equation, obviously. And the best way to do that is just pay off all debt. Pay everything off. Like Dave Ramsey says, maybe you start with the smaller debts, work your way up to the larger debts, but pay everything off. That's going to significantly increase your score. And not only that, once you've increased your score a decent amount, or even if your score is in the 600s, mid 600s to 700s, you should request new credit lines. Every time you request a new credit line, it's going to ding your score a couple points because it's a hard pull. It's what's called a hard inquiry. But at the same time, your credit utilization ratio is going to go down quite significantly because if you get approved for the new credit, it's going to increase your credit line quite a bit. So you should try to have, 3, 4, 5, 6 different lines of credit, whether they're credit cards, personal lines of credit at the bank, perhaps a car loan, but you want to have a mixture of credit, and you also want to try to increase your credit as much as possible because it's going to allow you to just get a better ratio as far as using your credit goes. Tip number 4 to improve your finances so that you can buy your first investment property is to improve your credit. And the best way to do that is to pay off all debt. If you pay off all your debt, your credit score is going to go up quite significantly. And if you don't have any debt, or if you already have a pretty decent credit score, maybe you have a little bit of debt, what you can do, and by a decent credit score I mean like mid 600s to anywhere in the 700s, ask for new credit lines. Ask your current credit providers to increase your lines drastically. Maybe ask for 2 or 3 times the current credit amount. But not only that, you should be asking for new credit lines just in general. So maybe get some Chase cards, get some American Express cards. Maybe ask for like 2 or 3 new credit cards from those different companies, because it's going to hurt your score a little bit. 2 or 3 points just asking for the new credit line or for the new credit card. However, it's going to improve your credit on the long term because it's going to give you a better credit utilization ratio because you're going to have more credit to work with. And it's also going to give you more, credit history, as well as more of like a mixture of credit. As far as the credit scoring goes, they don't want to see you just having like one credit card. People with perfect credit oftentimes have like 6 or 7 different lines of credit, where there's like 5 or 6 credit cards and one car loan or a house loan or whatever it may be. But they'll have like 6 or 7 different things that they're drawing from. So try to improve your credit, pay down credit, as well as ask for credit increases and ask for new lines of credit. That's going to help significantly. The next thing I want to talk about is the percent down. So most people think that when they buy an investment property, they need to put like 20% down or 30% down or whatever it may be. In fact, if you're buying it as a personal residence, which I know is different than an investment property, you can put as little as 3.5% down. And that being said, you can eventually make it your investment property. As long as you live there for a year, or even as long as your intention is to live there for a year, and which is kind of a gray area, you can use the 3.5% down first-time home buyer loan. You can also do 5%, 10% as far as conventional financing goes, and as far as being your principal residence. So you can eventually turn a principal residence into a rental property or an investment property. If you're doing an investment property, I think the minimum is actually like 15% down. So long as you're using like conventional financing and not doing anything like too out of the box. But between all those things that we talked about, over the course of 1 year or maybe even 2 years, you should easily be able to afford an investment property or possibly a principal residence that you eventually turn into a rental property. And that leads me to my next point, which is talk to a local lender. Maybe talk to several local lenders. And the reason I say a local lender is that nothing looks worse when you're trying to make an offer on a house than having a lender with like some 1-800 number that's on the other side of the country. If you have a local lender, it's going to make your offer look so much stronger. And local lenders, they can often be flexible and offer you good deals. And you can also like talk to them, you can meet them. Whereas like a 1-800 number with some national corporation, it might not be the best customer service. And the thing is, they'll promise you the world. They'll tell you, oh, we'll give you the lowest rates, this and that. But I'll just tell you from personal experience, sometimes they'll tell you that, and sometimes they don't always follow through. Sometimes it might be the day or two of closing, and they'll say, hey, we need another week, we need another few days. So I always recommend talking to a local lender, getting pre-qualified, so that you know exactly what you can afford. And it also looks good having a local lender. Okay, so we've talked about financing and getting your lender in order. The next thing is talking about the deal. So, and this is a mistake that I made, and a lot of people talk about this. Don't make any offers until you've looked at least 100 different properties. And you don't necessarily need to look at 100 properties in person. I mean, you can if you want. You'd be a much savvier real estate investor if you did. However, by looking at 100 different properties, you're going to quickly realize what makes a good deal versus what makes a bad deal. Because 100 properties is a pretty wide spectrum. If you did 100 of anything, you'd probably realize, okay, there's some good things about it, there's some bad things about it. Whereas if you just look at like 3 or 4 properties, you're going to think, especially because you just got approved and you're really excited, you're going to think everything out there is a deal. When in reality, it's like very few properties are deals. There's plenty of good deals out there. I don't want to sound negative or anything like that. But you just need to evaluate enough properties so that you know exactly what makes a good deal versus what makes a bad deal. One of the mistakes that I made when I was first getting started was that I bought one of the first properties I saw. Whereas if I had looked at tons of different properties, I would have had a much better understanding, a much better feel for prices, value, neighborhoods, different things like that. I was just so happy I got approved. I was like, all right, I'll buy it, I'll take it. I don't even care. I'm not even going to negotiate. I'm just so happy I can purchase it. So you definitely want to get out there, look at a lot of different deals. And not only that, one of the other mistakes I made on one of my first deals was that I bought a studio. Now, studios are cool and whatnot. They're cheap. It's just a nice little place to have. But in terms of resale value and appreciation, I would try to go as big as possible. And as far as residential goes, you can actually buy up to a 4-unit building as a principal residence, 3.5% down, which you could then eventually turn into an investment property. Or if you just wanted to go the investment property route, I think the minimum is 15%. Check with your local lender. But you could buy up to a 4-unit building, which appreciates a lot more and is much more valuable than just a studio. I sold my studio a few years later, made a few $1,000. But if I had bought at least like a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom, much less a 4-unit building, I would have made significantly more. And the next tip I would say is, unless you come from like a construction background, I would try to buy a property that needs cosmetic work, but nothing structural. I would try to stay away from the structural stuff and like the tear down properties, because sometimes you'll see properties that are just really dysfunctional, I would say. Someone's eventually gonna have to tear them down after a few years. So I would try to stay away from the big projects, unless you come from, unless you were spending your summers, working construction at, some company. So just stick with the cosmetic. If it's outdated and old, sometimes you can get a good deal with those, because people, a lot of people just want fixed up properties ready to move in. The last tip I'm going to give you on purchasing your first investment property is to buy in an area that you know. So when I was first getting started, people were sending me deals in like Baltimore for $5,000. So like I could just write a check for $5,000 and I would own a house. And that sounded so intriguing. However, I didn't know those neighborhoods at all. And upon further research, and luckily I didn't pull the trigger on those, because that actually I would have been overpaying at $5,000. Once I ran the comps in Baltimore, I realized there's hundreds, if not thousands, of properties for $5,000. Not only that, Baltimore, in some cases, gives away like blocks of their city for people that want to redevelop it. So in some cases, you couldn't even give me a free house in Baltimore, because the taxes and the value, there's just no value. It's negative value. So keep that in mind. There's some properties that you wouldn't even want for free. So my point is, before you buy a property, really know the neighborhood. Know what the most expensive property sells for, know what the least expensive property sells for, know everything in between, know the median house value. Because now when someone calls me or contacts me, about selling their property, I pretty much know exactly, okay, this property, will sell for $200,000, $500,000, $1 million. I know the neighborhoods, after doing comp research and things like that. So really try to, analyze different neighborhoods. And you don't have to specialize in just one area, but when you're buying your first investment property, I try to at least specialize in one city. You shouldn't be all over the map, because you could buy properties in Baltimore or Detroit, for a couple $1,000. But it's just, the value's not there. Okay, so thanks for watching this video on how to buy your first investment property. And I'll put the notes from the video below so you can check them out. And if you have any questions, definitely drop them in the comment section below. And please like this video, share it, subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. All right, bye.